Charles is thinking, just to give y'all an update on Charles, he was thinking he's diabetic, and his blood sugar may have had an issue with that. We need to keep candy bowls around here, I guess, for some of us to take care of ourselves. But we're so blessed that we've got folks that know what's up when it comes to health care, and they can really provide for us whenever we have issues like that. It's a good place to be here if you have a health challenge at times, it seems to me. We are just giving ourselves such a blessing of being able to study and hear the parables of Jesus. And today we get to come to Luke chapter 15. Luke 15 is very possibly my favorite. It's hard to say that this is definitely my favorite chapter of the Bible, but it is surely high on the list because this is a chapter where Jesus tells three parables, three that we're really familiar with. There is the parable of the lost sheep, first of all. Then there is the parable of the lost coin. And then there is the parable of the lost boy. And we're always trying to ask ourselves why certain passages are in our Bible, why certain stories are in our Bible. And when we think about Luke 15, we say, why does he tell the story of that lost sheep, that lost coin, that lost boy? And there are varied answers to that question, or those questions, but think of it this way. You see, one of the answers is he's teaching us how people can get lost. Sometimes a person can get lost as a sheep. Sheep just kind of carelessly wandered away, didn't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to leave my pasture, I'm going to leave my master, I'm going to leave the other sheep. Just kind of casually drifted away, not paying attention, then can't find his or her way home. Some people get lost like that. Just kind of wander away slowly, and then next thing you know, we're not where we need to be, having a tough time getting back. Then some people get lost like that coin was lost. Coin was lost through no fault of its own, really, but through the carelessness of the woman. Somehow or another, she misplaces, she dropped a coin, it rolled away into a crevice in the floor, and sometimes people get lost like that. I don't know that a person could ever exactly get lost as that coin gets lost, because we all bear some responsibility, don't we, for our choices. But sometimes a person can get lost in large part due to the influence of another or the decision making of another person. We can even unwittingly, by our neglect of a person's situation and challenges and needs, or maybe by something we say, something we do, can contribute to a person drifting away from the Lord. People are so fragile, right? Very, very, very fragile, and we need to be very careful and understand how our decisions impact others, our words impact others, our attitude, even our facial expression can impact other people. And then sometimes people get lost like that boy got lost. It wasn't through carelessness of someone else. It wasn't because he just wandered away as a sheep. He got lost because he chose. He just defied his father. I'm going to rebel. And sometimes people just do that. Tired of the rules, tired of trying to live a certain life that they believe makes them miserable. I'm going to go to a far country. You don't have to go far to go to a far country. But go to a far country and live my life, no rules, no laws, no expectations. And of course, that was not the happiest of endings for him in the far country. So when we look at these stories one by one, we'll gain insight into what contributes to the lostness of a person. And there'll be other things that we see that we can apply, that we can be edified by as we look at these together. So without any further ado, let me thank you again for being here, and let's go to Luke chapter 15, verse 1. Then all the tax collectors and the sinners drew near to him to hear him. Isn't that a beautiful picture now that we've started class with? We have the people that others look down on. They're coming to Christ because they want to hear something. They want to hear a message. What's their motivation? To hear. Hopefully their hearts are to the point that they understand, my life's not going so well, and perhaps this man has a remedy for me, has a prescription, has some words that can bless me. Notice when there's something good happening, there are those who cannot stand it, such is the case here, verse 2. And the Pharisees, the word Pharisee literally means one who is separate. The Pharisees and the scribes, those are the ones who did a lot of the writing and copying of the law, they complained. They complained, should have been elated because they also are sinners. They complained, saying, this man receives sinners and eats with them. That's good news for them. Yeah, they got a bad attitude, don't they? Have you noticed in your life that sometimes when things are going well, maybe somebody else isn't as happy as you think they ought to be? Certainly the devil frowns when we're smiling and does what he can do to wipe those smiles off our faces. Verse 3, so he spoke this parable to them, saying, and by the way, isn't it good for us that they did complain? Because they complained, we get these awesome parables now that perhaps we never would have had they not been pretty negative about Jesus eating with people like us and people like them. So he spoke this parable to them, saying, what man of you, having 100 sheep, so he's talking about something they can identify with. Perhaps they can even hear the sheep bleating on the hillside as he's telling them this. Having 100 sheep, that's somebody that's got a lot of money. This is probably what they would call back in those a broad-tail sheep. Pretty valuable. You get milk from this sheep, you get wool from this sheep. Palestinian sheep were not used usually for food. They were for family. They could almost be a pet to the family. So he got 100 of these blessings. If he loses one of them, does he say, well, I got 99 I didn't lose, I'm going to be happy with that? He does not leave the 99 in the wilderness. He does not ignore the lost sheep, in other words. He goes after the one which is lost, until he finds it. I like that phrase, until he finds it. It's not just going through the motions looking for it. He is not going to be satisfied. He's not going to rest until that sheep is found. I think it comes across here, he's worried about, he's scared about the safety of the sheep. And I think in my own life, can you think in your own life when you've looked for an animal? Are you thinking of those times now? Your dog, your cat, your sheep. Anybody ever lose a sheep? When I was a child, don't read too much into this statement, Kenny. When I was, my dad raised pigs, and pigs tend to, if you've ever been around, they tend to they tend to break out, and our pigs, my dad had up at 50 pigs at one. He's going to get rich being a pig farmer and a machinist, but pig business didn't work out so well. They kept getting out, and I remember having to go look for them, and of course they left quite a trail so that you could find them. But I remember the desperation, because that was some of our family income. We needed those pigs. We'd spent a fortune on those pigs and needed them to come back. We could take them to the auction and get rid of those things, but we could get some money. So I know what it's like to be in the dark, flashlight trying to find those things. But a more familiar thought comes to my mind. Something that hits closer to home is, y'all remember the tornadoes that hit our state back, was it April 27th, 2011? Over 250 people died that day. You think about that, 250 people in our state. They went to bed that night not knowing the next day, last day, just never knew. Well, a lot of us reached out to the community to try to help. And I was driving around the next day over in the New Hope community and came across lots of people that needed us, and y'all were able to help them in a lot of ways: food, financial, prayer, so on, clean up. But I met a family. They had lost everything except some dogs. When the tornado came, that was a 5 that came over there. It was like I measured it in my car, my truck, where I drove across the road where it crossed. It was over a mile wide, about a mile and a quarter right there. And so I came up to these people, and they're pitiful. And they're just looking at desolation. They had some dogs there tied to bumpers of their cars. And there are no pens for the dogs to be in it. And I said, tell who I am, here to help. What can I do? You can take our dog to the vet. One of them died in the storm. Two of them were injured. One of them pretty bad, was cut. And that's the dog, a Russian bull mastiff, looked fierce, and took that dog to the vet. I was nervous about it. He's in my truck. I thought he was going to eat me alive. A she. They named Camo for camouflage. That's not important detail. It's except to my heart. So I take her. Surgeries, she lives with us for a while, and I know I'm not giving that dog back. It's not my dog, but I'm invested now with money and heart, and I don't want to give that dog back. And so we kept that dog, and they didn't mind, thankfully. But so I kept that dog. That dog eventually got cancer. It's the best dog. You've had, everybody said, unless you're an anti-dog, you've had a dog like that. Best dog ever. That was that dog. Well, the dog got cancer. Big surgery. All right, dog lives, everything's good. Cancer comes back later, another very expensive surgery, and dog lives. But, the dog is starting to suffer now, and the cancer's coming back. And this is true, I think, that dogs, especially when they know they're about to die, what do? They try to get away. And so Jenna's out walking Cam, and Cam can barely walk. At this point, it's getting pitiful. Decision time is coming for us. And the dog somehow gets away from Jenna. And it's kind of late in the afternoon. I come home, panic, because Cam is lost, right? And that just happens to be one of those terrible days when at the end of the day, we forecast big, terrible thunderstorms in our area. And I cannot bear the thought of Cam being out. We kind of live, that's where we lived out 3 miles. Can't bear the thought of Cam being out there in the woods alone with the storm. Because ever since that tornado, when Cam thought storms were coming, she would go nuts. She would tear our house, our yard to pieces because she's just traumatized. And I'm thinking, I don't want that dog to have to go through that. And so I'm looking, I'm driving, I'm going all day, every day on dirt road, hollow, walking through woods, yelling, Cam, Cam, Cam. Can't find her. And it's getting dark, and I'm just having all these mental thoughts, and it's the best dog in the world, and I'm not there for me. So we love these dogs. Isn't it crazy? And so I find that dog finally, and she'd gone behind the house. She comes and get her and just so happy, and she's happy to see me, and I understand it's time. That night she was suffering too much, and so the next day but I remember that night of looking for her, and it's kind of like this text says, I was going to look. Does it sound crazy? It sounds silly in a way, I know that, but I was going to look for that dog till I found her. I just could not see going to bed that night knowing that dog's out there somewhere in the storms and all that. That's the thought I need to have when it comes to a person's soul, isn't it? And you do too. That's the idea here. There are sheep. They're not sheep. They're people. They're people like us. And they got lost like a sheep gets lost or a coin gets lost or the boy gets lost. And we do have some, because we care, we have some sense of responsibility and obligation to try to say something, do something, to help them to come home. I don't really think it should be a thought that we could make things worse. They're lost. How much worse can it be than lost? So let's pray for those that maybe are even in our hearts today that we're concerned about. Let's pray, but then let's put feet in our prayers. Let's go and say, hey, what can we do? We love you, and can you forgive us for whatever we've done wrong and offend you? And you know, can we come back to the Lord and just be what we once were, maybe even better than we once were? We need to have those kind of conversations. We need to take those steps, and we have opportunity to do that. So let's take advantage of this. Look at the rest of this. It's a story with a happiest of endings, right? Verse 5, and when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders. He's not letting this one get away, right? He's going to hang on to it. You see that word? Rejoicing. He's rejoicing. It's like he's carrying a trophy. He's carrying a part of his heart. I've read about these Palestinian shepherds. They really get attacked. These are family, these sheep. That's his cam that he's bringing home. And notice verse 6. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, rejoice with me, for I found my sheep which was lost. The rejoicing indicates something of what was lost and the feeling for it, doesn't it? It's not a matter of indifference to him. Like kind of what we talked about this morning. He hadn't been breathing that spiritual carbon monoxide. Verse 7, here's the point. And I say to you that likewise there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 just persons who need no repentance. Now he's telling this again to the complaining folks primarily. He's telling it to all of us, but he's telling it to the people who were saying he has no business eating with the sinful folks. He should be eating with us, the spiritual aristocracy of this community. What kind of man would choose to be in the company of people like that? But remember, it's the people like that who are choosing to be in the company of Jesus. Jesus came here to meet them, but they had to come also to meet him. Luke tells us Jesus came to seek and save that which was lost. It wasn't just the scribes and the Pharisees and these tax collectors and sinners. It's people like Jeff Abrams that he came to save. And I ought to be so thankful for that I make it my mission to do for others what Jesus has done for me. And to be sad when those that are lost, and to be really, really glad when someone returns to the fold. This is such, to me, a powerful, poignant parable picture, because we all can identify with looking for something or somebody that we can't find. And we look with a sense of urgency, don't we? Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say, a lot of times we get too busy with church work that we don't notice people drifting away.
Yeah. Linda says that we can get so busy with things like church work and all that we don't really notice when that sheep or that person is lost, and especially now, right, or what we're hopefully coming out of, because, you know, we haven't, and we're still not 100% full strength back able to eyeball each other, because we've got folks that we're thankful that they have online opportunities to be with us. But 2 years, in just a few months, will be 2 years on this path. I remember when this first began, where we, I think wisely, had to shut down being together. I remember teaching on Sunday nights when we weren't coming from the book of Philippians. I chose it because it's a 4-chapter book. I thought, all right, we'll do these 4 chapters, we'll all be back. Then I went to Colossians, another 4 chapters, you know, and then just on and on. You know, and it's just, for some people, it's been a nightmare, spiritual, not just a physical, it's been a spiritual nightmare because we don't know who's in the fold now. Not completely. We don't ever completely know, do we? But especially now, it's never been more challenging to know, is everybody okay or not? We try to call, check on folks, but this unusual time, unprecedented, right? Thank you for helping us look for sheep who may not be lost, they're just not able to be with us right now. And I really hope and pray that this wraps up soon. It's probably going to be a lifestyle adjustment for all of us of different things. Comments, questions, thoughts about any of this? Yes, sir, Doug.
I think it's good that he's revealed his purpose for socializing with sinners.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to endorse the behavior or to blend in, but it's because there's so much joy when one comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So much joy over a lost coin, a lost sheep, a lost boy when they come back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He ate with sinners, dealt with sinners, but he didn't catch their disease. He came to heal their disease. And, we're not Jesus. We're not as strong as he was around folks that could be toxic for us spiritually. So we have to be careful. We can't live in a monastery, but we got to be wise. We almost got to keep our hearts, our souls in a monastery while the rest of us goes out and tries to evangelize and encourage and do what we can. But when we see us moving more towards the world, and we're getting the world folks to move more towards Christ, then probably time to make some stronger boundaries between us and that threat. J.T. Harrison is here. He always has good things to say. And J.T., what's one of them you want to say now to help make all this make sense to us, this first parable?
I was sitting here thinking that the first sermon I ever preached when I was 15 years old was on these three parables. And every time I read them, I get some different meaning or feeling and understanding about how precious we are to God. We have a dog that if something happened, I became allergic to it today, I would have to be the one to move out tomorrow. And I love the dog that much also. And if we can have that much feeling for an animal who does not have a soul, how much passion, as you said, should we have for people who are out there who are lost, dying in sin? And that kind of compassion is the kind of compassion that Jesus wanted us to see.
Mm-hmm.
And it dawned on me here that, and I'll say this one more thing, that he's talking to these tax collectors and sinners. And as far as the tax collectors, they knew the value of a dollar. Many of them, to a great fault, that they know the value of a dollar to themselves. And Jesus is talking about possessions here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's 1%. If it's one of 100, well, that's still a lot of something. And he's trying to get them to understand the value of the soul rather than some other object.
Could you come back to class next Sunday also? We'd like to have you here, if you don't mind. Don't know what you got going on. And bring your wife who prefers the dog over you, because we all got that kind of wife, I think. What else? Who else? That's the 5-minute bell. Balcony people, any wisdom you care to share with us? Okay. Where are you? Okay, thank you. Carl in the back pew, speak up loudly, please.
Our church family, as long as we're together, thinking of 99, you don't even feel comfortable. Probably every family in here has that one out that we need to go out and try to bring back and search for in the church family.
Mm-hmm. I think this is something that hits us all. It hits us all, our heart, right? We all have uncle, cousin, child, parent, grandchild, somebody, we all, no family has been spared this parable. I mean, this is us. This is us. So I'm not saying that Carl's not saying that for us to have gloom, doom, despair, but just say, hey, we have opportunity. The sheep was found. The coin was found. The boy was found. This is happy, happy, happy. You and I, we've been found. So let's leave our gathering with a smile, but determination to be more mindful. Okay, we talked about in the sermon, to be caring about what and who we need to care for. Don't let the devil numb our senses too much to the plight of other people. Let me read this next parable just to set the stage for our study together next Sunday morning. Parable of the coin, verse 8 of Luke 15. Or what woman, as JT talked, back to money, right, which is where these tax collectors lived in their heart. Or what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she found it, she calls her friends and neighbors together, saying, rejoice with me, for I found the piece which I lost. Likewise, I say to you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Do you notice the percentages here? In the first parable, 1% is lost. The second parable, 10% is lost. In the next parable, 50% is lost. I'd say 100%. I think both boys were lost. But you get the idea there. But we'll develop that thought and some others next Sunday morning. Love y'all. 5:30 is our next family reunion opportunity. Hope you'll come back and be a part of it. Have a good afternoon.